Well, good morning, everyone. We are lucky to have Tammy from the Three Rivers System Office, and she's going to be talking to us about grants and how we can get those grants. They're just out there waiting for you, and she's going to give you tips and tricks on what to do and how to get the most for your money. So for that, we'll turn it over to Tammy.
Thank you, Autumn. Yeah, grant writing. There's, of course, the roadblock that is almost always in the way of libraries is, oh, I have this idea. Oh, I don't have the money. Oh, I'd love to do this. Wait, I don't have the money. But there are lots of grants available, lots of people wanting to give money to libraries, which is so cool. So there just may be something out there. If I can advance this. Should have tested the advancing part first. There we go. Okay, so like Autumn said, I'm the director from Three Rivers Library System. I'm not an expert grant writer. My experiences were from the small town of Genoa Public Library. When I started, I was very green. I had used the library to check out books, and it was a small library. I did not know libraries did summer reading programs or after school programs because small town, my predecessor did not. I didn't know that was such a thing. I remember I thought I was so cool when I thought, hey, we could have Legos in here. And then I realized mine was the only library probably in the whole state that did not already have Legos. So anyway, I tried writing some grants. I was pretty excited that, wow, you mean people will just give me money? So that's all I can share as my experiences. And I know that there's probably a lot of you rockstar librarians who have done far more than I have. So we'll have time at the end so we can hear what you've all done too. Because librarians are so great at sharing. I just love the library world. Okay, so why is it important to write grants? Because sometimes you have a program or you have repairs or events or something that you want that you just do not have the money for. So grants can supplement limited budgets. But there are those people that want to give out grants, and that helps them too, because that gives them the opportunity to be philanthropists. Okay, so when I started at the Genoa Public Library, it was only open like 19 hours a week, $16,000 budget a year. Book budget was $2,000. Everything was tired and worn, and I mean, it was like going back into maybe the late 60s, early 70s when you walked into the library. They did have some new books, but like I said, with a limited budget, it was all kind of sad, all kind of tired. Yeah, it was kind of exciting to start the library, but it was kind of sad too to see what the potential could be. So I was there from 2013 to 2019. During that time, I wrote about 40 different grants, and they only totaled around $35,000. I mean, some were just basic, asking Cornhusker Public Power, the local utility company, for a couple $100 a year, you know, but some were, I think the biggest grant was like $10,000. So there were some pretty huge things. And yeah, I figured this all out, and success rate was about 94%. So that's pretty exciting. Like I said, I'm no expert. I know there's some people who have gotten hundreds of $1,000 grants, which just blows my mind. That's amazing. So what did I use the grants for? Makerspace. Like I said, Legos. What? Libraries have Legos? Here I thought I was so creative, but all these different things you could try to engage kids and get them to come back. I thought that was exciting. And I did I call it Makerspace, but it was a small space. So it's just small items that could engage the patrons. But I did these types of grants a few different times because you want to keep things fresh so that there's always something new and exciting to try. So we had board games, we had STEM kits or STEAM or STREAM if you want to add reading, toddler concept kits. So there were hands-on things that even the little kids could do. Legos, toys, a lot of STEM stuff is what we strived for. That were some of the grants. Building repair, like I said, tired old library. The mortar was starting to deteriorate around the bricks, and we didn't want the front of the building to fall off. So we needed $10,000 was what the bid was. So I applied for the Kreutz Bennett grant because it was a small library, communities under 3,000. And they gave me 5,000 as long as you can get a matching fund. Oh my gosh, there were some wonderful people in the community. They did a fundraiser of a soup supper, raffle, and silent auction all together. And just that gave us $13,000. And then one lady gave us a check for $5,000. I mean, this was just huge, overwhelming success. So yeah, we had our 5,000 we needed to match, and then we ended up with extra money in the bank. That was exciting. So we got the $10,000 to do the tuck pointing, and it made a huge difference on the structure and the appearance. And that left money in our coffers then in our foundation that led to applying for a $10,000 grant from Kreutz Bennett the following year. Like I said, tired old library, the carpet had been from like the late 80s. So got a grant to get new carpet and shelves, to repaint, do all kinds of freshening. And I was awarded this grant, and then I left the position, so I didn't get the fun of redoing it all. But that's all right. It gave the new director a fresh start with fresh things to just make it better. And then some other grants, ceiling mounted projector and screen. That was huge for allowing for like virtual field trips and those kinds of cool things. And a Lego wall and a flannel board wall, just for the children's area, because fun, right? You never know what they can create when they get the opportunity. Grants for library programs. One year we did an adventure club, and it was targeting reluctant readers. So we got books that they could kind of read in snippets. And the way we did it is I think we had 3 or 4 books. So we divided in that many groups, and they could just open the book, and they're the type of books where you could read a paragraph at a time and get information. So they would read together as a group for like, I think it was 10 minutes, pass the book. And by the time they were done, they had read 3 10-minute times, which meant that was a half an hour of reading that they did that they may not have. So one of them was like the Transcontinental Railroad. So they did their half-hour reading, and then we had the Durham Museum do a virtual field trip, which is free. So if you've never done those are cool. Talking about the Transcontinental Railroad. One was about inventions, and then they used copper and magnet and battery and created their own little spinner thing and made their own little invention. It was just a way to get reluctant readers to read, but it was open for everyone. Coding Club, we got a grant for that, which meant we got 5 Chromebooks, the cases, a mouse for each one. And I went through code.org, I believe it was, and just got some of their ideas. And we started out with vocabulary words for coding, and we played a game of Uno. And then when we were done with the activity, then they would all get on their Chromebooks and they would do their own account on code.org. And I guess I consider this one successful because we had 10 kids sign up, and there was one kid missed the second, our second one. I think we went for 8 weeks, and he was so upset that he missed it. That's the only time we did not have full attendance. I mean, I've never had a successful program like that in my life. So, and it was very easy if you ever want to do coding. I mean, code.org is amazing. The ARSL, Association of Rural and Small Libraries, I applied for one of their scholarships, and I was able to go to St. George, Utah 4 years ago. So yes, that is Richard Paul Evans. So that was exciting. And wow, part of this grant was the next year I was on the scholarship committee for the ARSL, and we had like 130 applications to wade through to try to find like the 4 best. Wow, that was hard. And then to get everybody on the committee to agree. So there's a lot of thought process involved in being on that end of selecting the recipients of grants and scholarships. I should have mentioned on that too, the systems usually offer scholarships for like NLA, ARSL that are coming up. So if you want to go to stuff like that, take advantage of those scholarships because that money is there to help with continuing education. Okay, so of course there are grants that I did not get. The Institution of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, IEEE. I had heard about this grant and I had never really thought about science kits, but it's like, wow, there's so many cool things having to do with science. You could get something with weather and get a barometer, get these different tools. You can get a DVD that talks about it and books that talk about it. You could get one on health and put in a thermometer and a blood pressure, which I don't remember what the actual term is. But you could get these kind of things for kids and learn about how your blood pressure works. Just science, there's endless ideas for it. So I really got into this, wrote this great grant, and I did not get it. And then after it was all said and done, I realized that all the winners, even though my library was in their region, all the winners came from Chicago. So that made me feel better, at least, that it wasn't me or my skills. It was more the target area, which maybe they had, maybe they just needed it more. Rural libraries need it, I get that, but maybe the bigger areas with the lower income and so on, maybe they needed it more. And nationwide, of course. Ezra Jack Keats, I don't know if anyone's ever gotten that grant, but I really got into this too, figured out this collage project, how we could do it step by step, and I had all these big ideas for it. And yeah, I didn't get that one either. Nationwide grant, steep competition. I still learned from it. It's all good. Dollar General, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I would apply for it every year and I would get it like every other year, every third year. And I figure they probably have this much money and this much need. So everyone probably has to take their turns maybe. That's kind of what I told myself. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that pattern or not. Okay, and then my really big oops, and this is embarrassing. The very first grant I got was to Walmart. I had heard about this and local community grant. I didn't know anything about the process. I was very green for libraries and everything. So I filled out the application. They gave me $1,000. Cool. And that was it. I thought I was done. And then the next year I applied and I was on their naughty list. Because I did not follow through and do the publicity, I did not follow through. I don't believe they even needed receipts. I think they just really wanted the publicity as this is how our community helped, community givers helped the local library. Yeah, I totally blew that and it's very embarrassing because when I realized I didn't get it, I went back through the paperwork. Oh yeah, there it is, black and white. This is what I was supposed to have done. How did I miss that? So very embarrassing, but definitely something I learned from. Okay, so where do you hear about grants? State libraries, your local library system. In Nebraska, the Library Commission offers a lot of grants, and usually they're through the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Your four systems, your Central Plains Library System offers different scholarships. And then these places also try to give you information whenever they hear about it. I'm sure that Denise and Autumn probably tell you about, hey, don't forget about this grant over here. So be sure you read their emails always, and also those from the Library Commission. And then also state library associations like the Nebraska Library Association. You may hear about things through there, or even at conferences talking to other people. You never know when you're going to hear about grants. There's different local opportunities, and some of these are really local to my experience. But like the Kreutz Bennett, Nebraska wide, and I heard that this may be the last year because they are getting rid of their money. So maybe the year for everyone to apply. Like I said, very local is like the Margaret Russell, Preferred Sands, Cornhusker Public Power, Valero ethanol plants. My point with that is you never know what's in your own community. Do they have an ethanol plant? Do they have a utility company, a gas company that offers money? I've heard lately the LED lights that a lot of libraries are going to, that they actually offer rebates through a lot of the utility companies. You never know if you don't ask. If you can save money that way, that's awesome. So just whatever is in your community, they may be there having money that they would be willing to help. And then, of course, don't overlook the smaller things like your coffee shop, your gas station, restaurant, because it's going to vary in your community, but you never know. If they give out a free ice cream cone for a summer reading program, just anything like that, that's all worthwhile too. It makes them supportive of the library, and it helps them also. No gift is too small, in my opinion. And of course, the national opportunities like the Walmart, the Dollar General, the IEEE. My oldest son's a computer engineer, and a guy he works with said, "Hey, isn't your mom a librarian? Tell her about this." I mean, that was just so random that I heard about it. Of course, I didn't get it, but I had never heard of it, and I learned a lot applying for it anyway. Ezra Jack Keats, USDA, and like I said, the ALA, PLA, ARSL, they all have different scholarships available for conferences and so on. And I did put some links out here, and I'll send this out. Everybody has it. I think the Southeast Library System started a list of all the grants that they could think of, and then Krista kind of took it over, and she wears a million different hats. I don't know how she keeps on top of everything she does, but I think every time she hears of a grant, she adds to it. Librarygrants.blogspot.com, tlcdelivers.com, library grants, the Pilcrow Foundation, which used to be the Libri Foundation. They give out grants of actual books. And of course, if you just Google grants, sometimes you don't know what you'll come up with. And then of course, keep in mind what their schedules are, because some are offered every year. And so if you apply every year, you never know, you might get it every year. But if you keep a note of what their schedules are, that can be helpful. Okay, so when you actually fill out the application, make sure you follow the directions, that you're giving them the information that they want. I personally think if you let your passion show, if you're excited about what you do, I think that will show through. I mean, wouldn't you rather give money to someone who is really enthusiastic and excited about what they're going to do instead of someone that, yeah, if you give me money, that would be nice, you know? And spelling, grammar, sentence structure, punctuation. I personally think it matters. Like I said, when I had that stack of 130 applications to go through, if I had to stumble through it to even figure out what they were trying to say, I put it aside and didn't even, they may have had a really, may have been really a good contendant for the scholarship, but if I couldn't understand it, I wasn't going to take the time to read it because I had this whole other stack to go through. So I think it makes a difference to make your message clear. And if you care enough to do it the best that you can, I think that shows your passion and enthusiasm too. And also, I think there's always someone who would be willing to proofread it for you to make sure that you have your message clear, what you want. I mean, I bet, okay, I'm probably reaching out there, but I bet even Autumn or Denise would probably be willing to read over it. And your idea first or your grant opportunity first. Either way is okay. I always found librarians had ideas just coming out of their ears because librarians are creative, probably the most creative people I've ever met. So I think usually the idea comes first, and then you say, hey, here's a grant that would work. There were a couple cases like the IEEE. I had never thought about science kits. And then when what that grant was for was science kits, well, then that really evolved. So I don't know, it doesn't probably matter which comes first, but usually there's a fit somewhere. But I think it's really key to know what your community needs. It would be silly to have a program geared for this type of audience and have nobody in your community that really fits that bill. So make it something realistic that would benefit your own community, which librarians do know their communities well usually. So yeah, you want your demographics, which I know I always hated doing every 3 years, the strategic plan, community needs assessment plan. I always dreaded doing that. But after it was done, I really felt it was worthwhile because I got a better picture of what my community really was and what it maybe needed. And when you're writing a grant, you want to be able to demonstrate that you need this money for whatever you're doing, and that what you hope to accomplish with it. And that can really be sometimes hard to put into words, because it's one thing like, okay, I want to get some makerspace stuff so kids come in the library. Well, that's all well and good, but what are some concrete goals? So yeah, stimulate creative thinking, logical thinking, critical thinking skills. So yeah, you try to make it really identify what you hope to accomplish. And I think keywords are important, like STEM and STEAM, critical thinking, logical thinking. I think they're all kind of keywords, but these trends kind of evolve. Like I think right now diversity is and maybe it has been for a while, but I think it's probably more trending now. So you kind of want to keep up with what the trends are to make sure that what you're doing is a focus of what the grant givers want to provide.
I think inclusion is probably a good one right now too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you want to do your best to articulate your desired goals, and a lot of them ask for quantitative and qualitative. So if you want to increase your attendance by a certain percent, but you want to make sure it's realistic, because if you say, oh, I want to triple the number of people that come in, well, that may not really happen. It just may be a pipe dream instead of a realistic goal. You want it to be realistic and qualitative. I guess I always thought quality was easier for me for some reason to come up with is, okay, I want to build critical thinking skills. You know, you can see what STEM items are supposed to be, or even like the front of the building. Well, I don't want the quality, I don't want my building to fall apart. I mean, that was pretty basic. But to try to really come up with a concrete number is sometimes difficult. And a lot of grants really want community support. And I guess I get that too. If they think that it's just someone going rogue and coming up with ideas that nobody in the community agrees with, well, that's not good. You want the community to be involved too. And that's why they sometimes ask for the matching grants or the cash or the in-kind. And then usually they want a final report. And I get this. If I gave someone money, I would like to hear the fun part. Well, did it work? Were you able to do what you wanted to do? Did it make a difference in your world? So, I mean, I get that, why they would want to know how it all turned out. So a lot of times when you write the final grant, to me, I kind of reuse the same words that I wanted to build these skills. I successfully built these skills. And that's one thing I noticed, like, I think on here, teamwork. I remember there was something I never even thought about. Doing this activity would build the kids working together. So I actually added teamwork as an additional unforeseen benefit. So I think it's okay to reuse the same words to prove that you've met your goals and include some extra things that you may have noticed. And yeah, read the requirements for the final report. Don't screw up like I had done, because you might miss opportunities. And of course, I think they deserve to hear what you've done. Okay, and do not be afraid to write grant applications. I have heard this, I don't know how many times, that someone will say, well, I want to do this, but I don't have the money. Oh, but here would be a grant for it. Oh, I can't write a grant. Yes, you can. You can write a grant. There's companies that really want to give money to your library. And you think about that, what is the worst that can happen is they say, no, sorry, you didn't get it. So, I mean, there is a lot of competition. You won't always get the grants, but you will always learn something from it. So show your passion, make them know that, hey, this would really be great for my library. Make your goals meaningful, relevant. And yes, you in your library, your community, they do deserve the best that you can offer. So it's worthwhile to try. And like I said, even if you do not get the grant, you've gained the experience. You may have gotten some new ideas from writing it. You've gained writing skills. You've learned how to better write grants. And you can always try again next time, because it could be they just didn't have enough money to give it to everybody. So you can try writing the same, apply for the same grant again, or maybe it would be a better fit with a different grant with your idea, but you always build your skills. I have never done this, but I have heard that some places that turn you down for a grant, if you ask them why, that they might give you some positive, constructive criticism. I've never actually done that, but I've heard that some people have had success with getting some feedback. And again, what's the worst that can happen is they say, no, I'm not going to take the time to do it, or they don't respond. Well, you're not really out anything, but they could really give you some tips. Okay, so keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities, because you never know where you might hear about something. And there are ideas from libraries everywhere. Listen to one another, because like I said, librarians share, and it's not like anybody's in competition. Everybody has their unique audience. So the same idea can work for lots of different libraries and benefit everybody's communities. So yeah, keep your ears open for where there are grant opportunities. You never know where you might find them. Thank you card. No matter whether it's grants, scholarships, donations, memorials, volunteers, even somebody giving you an ice cream cone to give out as a prize, anything helps your library. And I always like this story, because there was a sweet little old lady. She shouldn't have been wandering around in her yard. She took the time to pick up a bunch of pine cones, just the great big beautiful ones. And sure, we could use them in the library. So I took pictures, and I had the kids, as part of the project, after they made their bird feeders with peanut butter and bird seed, they actually signed a thank you card, and I gave it to her. I heard, I don't know how many people after that. Well, I happened to see Alice in the store, and she was saying how wonderful your library is. Good job. I mean, you can never have too many advocates for your library. So no matter how big or small the effort, appreciation is always, always, always welcome. And it may take it to the next level that, hey, I remember we gave out 10 grants, and this one gave us a thank you card. They're at the top of our list next year. I don't know if that's how it really happens, but why not? Appreciation is always good. Okay, so yeah, we can open up the floor. I would like to hear what, like I said, I'm no expert. I'm sure there's people who have done tons and tons and have lots of great ideas that I might have missed out. But Autumn and I were talking before we started. Right now is a great time, because there's so many opportunities. There's the ARPA funds, which truly isn't a grant, because the money is just there to give to you. But they also have the Youth Grants for Excellence and the Library Improvement Grants that are a lot more well-funded this year and do not have matching funds required. So it's a great opportunity for them. The Kreutz Bennett grant is coming available, I think due October 1st. There's the Libraries Transform Communities. They're doing a third round through the library, through ALA. There's just so many different things. Conferences are coming up, so there's different scholarships available for conferences. And if I'm missing any, please speak up and tell me, because there's just so much opportunity right now. And I'd love to hear your ideas for some of the grants too. So I'm going to stop sharing. And if anyone wants to share what they've done in their library grant wise, or what they plan on doing with grant money coming up, I would love to hear it.
I know Deb, I think from Fairbanks, Deb Fairbanks, you've gotten the Dollar General one quite a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, yes, I have. And they have never stopped us and did it every other year. We've probably received 3 years in a row, but then we found other grants. So we just kind of thought maybe we were abusing our use of it too. So we found other grants to go the next couple years. But I think we got it for 3 years in a row. And you know, when people get their receipts at the Dollar Generals, there's that survey. That survey gets us more monies for our area for our grants if you fill them out. So always fill out your surveys. It also gives the employees more monies for their for raises and stuff. It shows that people care. And if you talk about, of course, it's got to be positive feedback for that to all happen. But you know, it really helps if people do those surveys on the bottom of the Dollar General, because it'll be more monies for all of us.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Well, I have a relative that worked at a Dollar General, and that's what she told me. I didn't know it either until then. So from then on, I keep trying to fill it out. I keep trying to pass that word on, because, you know, more to go around. I don't know if the school uses the Dollar General one much, but maybe nobody in our area uses it here in Wood River. And maybe it's just contained to this is what's designated for this area. So we got it so many times in a row. I don't know. But we're very thankful.
See, maybe it was just me. Maybe I was just building up my grant writing skills, but I wasn't worthy. So they turned me down legitimately. I tried to make myself feel better. I just had to wait my turn.
Probably we were the only people in Wood River that applied for it. Nobody else thought about it. So they said, okay, we'll give it to them again.
So were there nationwide grants? I think there is a lot of competition and a lot of worthwhile causes.
We did receive one nationwide one through the medical one time for all kinds of equipment to work on for like basketball hoop thing. It's for physical activity and for health and nutrition of them. And we did get one national one, which is like was awesome to us.
So what are some of your ideas for the ARPA funds?
I'm hoping to get some programming iPads with our ARPA fund, because we use iPads a lot with like our Sphero bots and our coding and teaching kids coding. And right now the only iPads we have in our library are like 2nd gen. So they're getting too old to like update the apps. And so I would like to get some newer iPads and Apple Pencils, because I think that can be used through all of our ages here at the library, especially with digital literacy, digital artwork, coding, all sorts of things. So I'm hoping, but everybody gets to put in what they want, and not everybody's going to get what they want, but we'll see if we get some programming iPads. Recently, it wasn't really a grant. I don't have a ton of experience grant writing. We're really blessed here at Hastings Public Library with our foundation and being able to just request our budgeting for what we want and need. But I have received 2 different times from our local hospital, $500. I got $500 for a summer reading kickoff a couple years ago. And then just recently, we're going to be doing a program for our kids in October called Characters on Parade. And so I wanted to get those, you know, those mascot, like Scholastic Book Fair looking book characters. So we're getting Elephant and Piggy and Pete the Cat, and we're going to be having them on parade with some of our staff members dressed up as different characters and doing crafts with them. And our local hospital gave us $500 to cover the cost of our mascots and the shipping. So.
And while that might not be official grant writing, I think that's still so important. And I think it's cool when communities support library. That says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wondered. Rachel, how did you approach them? Like, did they have a form, or did you just say, hey, this is my idea?
So I worked for Mary Lanning Hospital for 3 years, and I worked as a barista actually. So you get to know everybody from every single department when you give them their coffee. Um, so I asked the like assistant, the administrative assistant for the board and CEO of our hospital, like, hey, I'm doing a program at the library. I was wondering how I would go around getting funds. And literally I make up a mock poster of like the event. Oh, there we go. Of the event that I'm going to be doing. And I send her the poster. She presents the poster to the board and saying the library is going to be doing this event and would like some funding. And they either approve it or deny it. And every time I've asked, it's only been twice, they just approve it and send me $500 check in the mail.
Right. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I would strongly advise, like what Tammy was saying about the ALA and ARSL Libraries Transforming Communities grant, that third round. My library actually received a $3,000 grant for the first round. There was only 6 of them in Nebraska that were given out. And they're very, very easy to write. So don't feel intimidated by it. I know that they're wanting to give that money out. And so what we did here at our library was we built a community garden. And so built raised planters and planted food for food insecurity in our community. The only requirement with that grant is you have to have one community conversation. So it's just inviting everybody to come and discuss the issue that you're addressing. And that one is pretty easy because even if nobody shows up, it still counts as a conversation. I had 3 people show up that night for my conversation and it counted. We just discussed the insecurities with the food during COVID and the need that was presented in our community that we didn't know about because, that's something that you don't talk about. And so, but during COVID, we found out how many people really did have food insecurities when they were taking advantage of those farmers to tables food boxes. And so we just wanted to make sure to provide produce, fresh, free produce to whoever needed it. However, our garden did not grow very well this year. We had some poor soil. And so I'm getting a farmer, he's donating some soil to us for next year's. And because it didn't grow very well this year, and I know how much plants cost, we did end up writing another grant for Roots and Shoots, the Jane Goodall Foundation. And we received $200 more from them to purchase our plants next year so that we can try it again and hopefully it'll work. But yeah, so
You do know, Joy, that you're eligible to reapply for the ALA Libraries Transform Communities.
yes, I did see that. Yeah, but I wanted to give other people an opportunity, even though we had such success with it. It was one of those things of like, I don't want to ask for too much and share the wealth because there's other communities that really need it too. So, but that's why I'm pushing, apply for this one. It's easy. Even on the second round, I was one of the evaluators and reviewed 30 different applications. And I saw lots of different things that people were doing. And I even got some ideas off of those applications for applying in our own library. So yeah, like I said, just make sure that you're passionate about what you're writing about and you have that community support. But yeah, that one's a great one.
And there is a comment in chat. Autumn, do you want to read what it is, please?
Sure. Lori and Kozad wrote that the opposite side of writing or getting grants is remember that someone actually has to do the grant, including keeping up with all of the paperwork, doing that follow through afterwards. She had several staff who enjoyed writing the grants, but they didn't want to do the programs or the paperwork, or they actually left before the grant was awarded. And so once the grant has been awarded, somebody has to keep track of doing all of that. So just make sure that when you apply for those, you have somebody on your staff that's on board and is going to be in charge of making sure that that gets done if you have a larger library.
And that's what's nice about the one that I'm talking about, the Libraries Transforming Communities, because part of that grant can be used towards staff salaries, which you don't find that in grants very often. So like when I wrote mine, it was $2,000 worth of supplies, and then it was $1,000 worth of my time, which amounted to, I think it was 25 hours or 30 hours of actual like dedicated time, because I knew somebody was going to have to pull weeds, somebody was going to have to water, and that was going to be me because I actually was the one that wrote the grant and I love gardening. So that didn't hurt. But so when my financials come out, it shows that I've only spent $2,000 of my grant money. However, $1,000 of it was in salary expense. So that one is one of those amazing ones that, yeah, you don't have to convince your directors or your board or anything that you're going to be sacrificing some of your precious time without the figuring out how to pay for it.
So Joyce, since you were on the opposite end where you got to evaluate grants the next year, do you have some tips that I maybe didn't include, what you looked for?
There was 4 or 5 of them that I just threw out immediately because they didn't read the questions. So make sure you're answering the questions correctly. One of them was simply as the name of the grant, and all you had to do was write LTC 2 because it was the second round, and they wrote like a whole bunch of other things, and the direction said just, and like, I mean, it was in parentheses and it said type LTC 2. And like one of them I just threw out because they didn't even follow that direction, and it was just a simple sentence. A couple other ones, because I was like, if they didn't read that, then how will they understand it? One of them that I threw out, and this goes to like what Tammy was saying about the Chicago area and everything. It was actually for a community college in California at Venice Beach, and they were asking for $3,000 for textbooks for their library as a loaning library. And if you look at the demographics, Venice Beach is actually a pretty wealthy community. And even though it's a community college, it was one of those things of like, there were other options that were a little bit better. So showing the need in your community, your poverty levels, your, like your community support and all of that, that one I threw out because there wasn't any community support either. It was just that community college, and they were trying to figure out how to pay for college books. And they didn't even like say that they were going to ask for donations after students were done with their college books or anything like that. I mean, it was one of those things of like, there wasn't that support that went with the project. Trying to think, there was another one that didn't get to the point. Like they rambled on and on and on and never really gave the quantitative results of how they were going to measure it. And like you said, that's really key, is you got to make sure that you can report back of why it was a success or how it was a success.
And Stephanie asked about the Youth Excellence and the Library Improvement Grants. Yes, they normally require a 25% match, but they are not this year because they are using some of the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. They're actually supplementing these grants with those funds. So they're making it 100% grant. Normally, like Sally Snyder will get maybe $18,000 to give out for the Youth Excellence grants. This year, they're giving her $75,000 to give out with no match. And the Library Improvement Grant, sometimes they don't have any funds for this, and they're putting $150,000 towards that. So there is a lot of money available. So shout out your ideas and go for it.
Yeah, Denise has been almost not ARPA, she's been harping on it in a good way about making sure you apply for the first one and then apply for both of these. Make sure you know, if you can't apply for one for this area, use it for this area. So
Did Krista say that if we had more than one idea for those grants, that we should apply separately. So then that way they can evaluate each program instead of it being like a denial of one giant grant. They can deny little ones and
Correct.
grant little ones. Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted
Yep.
to double check on that.
Yep.
No.
She said, if you've got multiple ideas, send each one of them in as a different idea so that you don't just get denied. Each one can get approved on their own, standalone.
So like how many, like let's say if you have 4 ideas, you could do like 4 youth grants or something.
There's a possibility, yeah.
Okay.
Because with more money in the pot, and who knows how many will be applying, apply for it. Like Tammy said, what's the worst they can say? Sorry, we couldn't do all 4, but here's 2 of them. Hey, then you
And
got 2.
Last year, I did get a grant for the Youth Grant for Excellence. It was my 4th one, I think, that I've received for our library. But it was a Cooking with Kids, and I requested $1,000, and because of their limit, they only were able to grant me $800. So even at that, make sure that you ask for, you know, what you need. The other big thing I forgot is if you're getting your supplies through Amazon, do not put down the discounted price, put down the full price. So if it has like the slash of the red and it says like $25.99 and it slashes down to 22, make sure you put that $25.99 as your expense, because you don't know with like Amazon, those prices fluctuate all the time. And you want to make sure that you're not having to pay out of your own pocket for something that would be, and then that way, if you do get all the discounts, that gives you money to be able to purchase something else that you might not have been able, or you might not have thought of.
Even promotion, extra funds maybe to do extra promotions that you may not have had. Gail commented, make sure to sign the form for the grant. I had a friend who had a great program idea and spent lots of time working on the grant form, and it was not accepted due to her not signing it. Ouch. Yeah, lessons learned the hard way.
So like Tammy brought out, if you guys need somebody to look over your grants before, do that final double check, give Denise or I a holler, or grab one of your board members and have them look it over. Just have somebody double check it, because when you're working on it, it's easy to overlook things because you've looked at the same form for however long you've been working on it. So just get a fresh set of eyes to look at it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And if they can go into it blind and understand what you're asking for and what you need and what you're hoping to do, then that means that the people who are getting it and evaluating it will understand it also. I know building projects, that's a big one with you're doing renovations, and yeah, kudos to any of you who have done those. I feel like such small potatoes when I figured all mine out. It's like, yay, I'm so proud, but whoa, look at what they've done. So, I mean, that's a big thing when you have to, when you're asking for money to help with big projects.
And don't give up. That's the big one. Like the director that was before me, we were building our brand new library, and she received so many rejections that she just stopped writing grants. And so then I started writing them, because I was like, I know that you're devastated, but if you don't ask, you're not going to receive. And then we started to finally get a bunch of grant money that came in, and that kind of re-sparked the fire under her. But yeah, don't take it personally if you don't get the grant.
Comparing apples and oranges, but Dr. Seuss got rejected 27 times before he got a book published.
Well, and also don't forget that just because like you don't always see a grant out there, that they're not giving it to the libraries, don't just assume that they won't in the future. For example, my college roommate works for the Nebraska Arts Council, and she has mentioned that she sure would like to see some more grants applications from libraries. So like for your performers in the summer or whatnot, they do a lot of grants for like touring in towns. and she is kind of in charge of the grant program. So she's kind of hinted to me that she sure would like to see some more libraries apply for something along those lines.
You said that's,
The Nebraska Arts Council.
yeah, I always take notes of stuff like this too. So many,
Uh,
I think that goes back to keeping your ear on the ground and sharing information with each other.
Reading Stephanie's comment, because of the process that we just went through 3 years ago to build our building, I can also tell you that a great place to look for grants, and especially those that are for construction, look at the Nebraska Economic Development website. They usually have a huge, like over 400 different grants that are available in Nebraska. They might not all pertain to libraries, but there's some that are for like community buildings or community, and you can always twist the purpose of the grant towards that the library is part of the community and that it's needed because of X, Y, and Z. And a lot of the times they'll take that into consideration too.
Yeah, and Stephanie, Judy from Atkinson said USDA also for construction. And there's a lot around here, like Joy has got a fairly new building. She's gone through a renovation, new build. Arapahoe just had their ribbon cutting ceremony a couple weeks ago. So contact some of these directors that have been through the process. They can help you.
yeah, there's so many ideas, and that's one of the reasons why construction's not allowed for some of them. If it's federal funds, I think is what makes it limited to with no construction.
Other thing that you have to make sure of is make sure you talk to your city and make sure that you're not going for a grant that they're going for also. Like the community development block grants, we had to step aside because they were requesting a $3 million road improvement. They replaced like a whole, like 4 or 5 different like whole complete streets. And it was like, yeah, a $3 million project versus our $1 million library project. And so we kind of got pushed to the side on that grant. And so moving forward with that would have been bad to compete against your own city on something. So make sure you talk to your city, your Chamber of Commerce, and your economic development, because you don't want to be competing for other grants that they may need for the community. Not that we're not important, but the infrastructure of our roads was really important too. So
Good advice. In COSAB, they said Humanities Nebraska also has entertainment grants. And then she also said, the other thing I found is to give grant information that's not pertinent to the library, but for something else in the city, to the mayor or city administrator, bonus points awarded.
Goes to that whole community improvement. You know, the more you improve your community, the more it improves the library. So it works hand in hand. And Lori has fostered great workmanship between the city and she's developed that relationship over the years.
Yeah, and that's priceless. Anybody else have thoughts or comments or questions?
I have one. Some years back, we bought a AccuCut machine and some dies with some grant money. And then, you know, you need to let your people know what you have and how you received it. And all of a sudden we were getting responses from the community. The local school teachers, they always do some fundraising and use it for things. And so they wanted to buy some die cuts to store at the library for people to use. Then the churches, different churches wanted it for their bulletin boards. So they wanted to buy some dies. And then the local association of homeschool group, they wanted to buy dyes. And then the retirement home wanted it because they could use it for their bulletin boards. So it just kind of nosedived twice as much as we thought. And so don't forget to advertise what you have or let people know, because there's people out there that appreciate what you have, and it's cheaper for them to buy a dye or two than the whole thing. So it worked really well.
That's awesome. And one thing to keep in mind too is some grants actually have exact wording that they want you to use in newspapers or publicity. Not all, but some do. So it is important to read those instructions and follow their directions.
Yeah, most grants want you to do that.
I think Gail brings up a good point. Deb, you kind of had that happen with your sewing machine, embroidery machine, and your Cricut. You had people that loved having it there and using it. So they offered, she borrowed it from us, but when they had it there and they talked about wanting to get one for their own library, then they had people write out checks. And you tell the story. You can tell it better, Deb.
Well, that's what happened. They donated monies to purchase more supplies, to do stuff for it. They fell in love with it. Absolutely. In fact, we even had 2 people after that buy their own machines. They were so impressed with what we were doing. And I mean, but they did help us get started. They had monies for us that they donated specifically for that because they were so impressed with it. And it's still, the embroidery machine is still very, very popular. I mean, probably, I can't even list the number of projects that's gone through it. We showed that we're doing backpacks right now, so stuff like that. But and during COVID, even they would just come and they could pick out their thread. We didn't let them touch the machine at that time. We touched the machine because we didn't know how to clean all the pieces. So they would pick out their thread, pick out their project, leave it with us. We would get it done for them and do it for them during that time. Because we had, I think, hours and days between the Cricut and the embroidery machine. Mandy was at one for days upon end, and I was at one for days upon end to get their Christmas presents done for all of them that they had left. I mean, we didn't know it would just go woof, but it did. But it was okay. We made it through, and now we're into the backpack season of getting things labeled. So, but now they can come in and do their own. So, and backpacks aren't quite as easy to do as some of the other projects because they're slick or where you can put it to get the hoop on right. But I mean, it's working.
And keep in mind, these are the kind of stories that it's fun to write up newsletter articles and send in to Denise and Autumn to share it, because everybody can get ideas for their own communities, and feel good stories make us all better. Yeah, my cat, he loves to be right in my face.
They have something to say too. Well, we're coming up on about an hour. Does anybody have any final thoughts or questions for Tammy? Or suggestions for anybody else?
Well, go out, dance. Really, your community is worth it, and I know you can do it. There's so much out there right now. Awesome opportunities.
All right, well, we will see everybody later. And thank you again, Tammy, for having this and hosting this for us, because I think it's great information we can all use right now.
Yeah, good luck, everybody. Thank you for having me.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Bye-bye.